Welcome to the What I Meant to Say podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and I started these conversations because life doesn't give us do-overs. So this is a space where we get a chance to reflect and tell our story again, with more grace for ourselves, and hopefully make us all better for having listened. Today's conversation is with Toni Rodriguez. With 7 seasons of college athletics under her belt as an indoor and beach volleyball player at LSU, Toni battled back from injuries to lead on the court and also made the most of her experience at LSU in the classroom, graduating with a BS in kinesiology and 2 master's degrees. She's a professional beach volleyball player and owner of Level Up Volleyball, which she started to help aspiring college volleyball players navigate the recruiting journey. I love her because she's real, hardworking, kind, and talented, and sets a great example for younger players for what creates success, and I'm so excited to talk with her today. Okay, Toni Rodriguez, I am so excited to have you here today for the first episode of Whoop Whoop, What I Meant to Say. And Toni is an LSU beach and indoor alum, and she's headed out to California, and she's a rising professional beach volleyball player and budding entrepreneur with Level Up, her new business for recruiting for beach volleyball, NCAA recruiting for juniors. And I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm glad to be here. It's awesome that you invited me to do this, and I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah.
And tell the world what they want to hear.
Yeah, right. Well, you have a great story. Toni and I met at Coconut Beach, and I would be remiss to say that I'm here today in Jason DeVilius' studio. We met Toni during Louisiana Beach Week last June, and he is helping me out. Jason and I are buds, and we support each other, so he's given me my start here. I'm using all his equipment, and he's teching my show, and he's just doing what Jason does best. So there's so many things you do well, actually, but thanks for helping me out today.
No, that's why they pay me the big bucks.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right.
And my camera angle's all messed up. See here, so I can save everybody else, but not myself.
So back to Toni, and I'm so excited to hear about where you've come from, where you're going, and some of the lessons you've learned along the way. And I was just drawn to your fire on the court, and when we sat down and I started hearing about what you were up to in life. I mean, what you do on the court is carrying out into your life, and I just wanted to have that conversation so other people can hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Santa Maria, Louisiana. All my teammates back at LSU would make fun of me for saying it like that, because when I say it, when I'm introducing myself, usually it has that kind of accent, that southern accent. But I grew up in a small town, and I played basketball growing up, and so I really thought I was going to college to do that. I tell you that. I didn't start volleyball till high school, so definitely a late bloomer in the sport. I've only been playing beach volleyball for, say, roughly 2 years. Nothing too crazy because I had shoulder surgery, so kind of held me back a little bit in the COVID time. I got shoulder surgery.
Okay.
But anyways, so yeah, grew up playing basketball, did softball, track and field, definitely a multi-sport athlete. But yeah, when I got to high school, I made the basketball team, and then the volleyball coach came up to me at summer workouts and goes, "Hey, have you ever played volleyball? Because you're like 6 foot." I was like, "No, I've never played." And she's like, "Do you want to come try out?" I was like, "Okay, sure." I went to a practice.
Oh.
It wasn't the tryouts. She was like, "Just come, you can, try out at the practice." I was like, "Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll try." And so ended up making the team.
Was it good from the start or super frustrating?
I'd say my teammates called me a baby giraffe.
Oh, I've
or like a
seen
baby
those.
deer.
I think I've had those.
Very not coordinated for the volleyball, because basketball you're catching the ball versus volleyball you were using
Making
your
that
body
connection.
to hit it to where you want it to go. So definitely different. But yeah, I mean, I made the team and then eventually worked my way up to varsity my freshman year, and then kind of smooth sailing till I decided I wanted to play in college. I kind of got hurt playing basketball.
Wow.
So I had to kind of give it up
Okay.
my junior year of high school. So then I just completely
No, and you were already playing a lot of volleyball. So.
Yeah, I was already playing like I made the softball team. I quit that my first year so I could play club volleyball. So it was kind of like a love at first sight type thing. Like I started playing and then I was like, okay, I love this sport. So yeah, I kind of had to start dropping other things. So softball was one of them. Eventually basketball. I did track and field throughout my whole high school though.
Yeah, those are super great complementary sports. What events did you do in track and field?
Track and field, I did a variety over my 4 years, but I'd say my senior year I only did I only threw the javelin.
Okay.
But I was a high jumper, a long jumper, a triple jumper. So I did the jumps mostly. I did the jumper.
You are a rugged athlete. Like I love watching you play, and I'm hearing. So tell me about your shoulder injury.
Actually, rewind before that. I've torn both ACLs as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I've gone through a lot of.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 25 now.
Okay.
So I've gone through my fair share of injuries. That's for sure.
Yeah. So 2 ACLs.
2 ACLs. So left and right, and then I got a shoulder surgery in 2020. So, but basically my junior. So after my junior year of high school, going into my senior year, I knew I wanted to play D1. I knew I wanted to play in the SEC. I was a little late on the recruiting side, I'd say. I was kind of behind, right? Because I started so late, right? Now coaches are recruiting freshman year. Some coaches are recruiting 8th graders.
And you had just picked up a volleyball your freshman year.
Just picked up a volleyball.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, I was like, okay, I know I want to do this, and I know I have goals, so like I got to figure out a way. So ended up getting in contact with University of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ended up going to a camp over that summer, and they ended up offering me a full scholarship. And so I verbally committed.
Okay.
Go Volunteers, right? And then 3 games into my senior year, I tore my ACL. So it was definitely, obviously, a season-ending injury. And about a week later, after the injury happened, they called my parents and pulled the scholarship. So it was a very tough time, I'd say, for a 17-year-old. Yeah, it was a lot. But ended up after finding out everything, kind of sat back, was like, okay, I still have goals to play D1 SEC. I mean, I grew up bleeding purple and gold, right? LSU is like home to me, right? And so we've always been fans. We've always gone to games like football, basketball, volleyball. You know what I mean? So it was.
Had you thought about LSU before the Tennessee thing?
Yeah, I did. I went on a visit, but I didn't feel they were like as interested as as Tennessee was, I'd say. I wouldn't say LSU was like actively recruiting me versus Tennessee was. They wanted me to be on their team. And so, I mean, I knew Fran Flory, who's LSU indoors coach.
Okay.
Not anymore. She just retired, but she was my coach. And I knew her because her daughter played at the high school in Baton Rouge called U High, and we played against each other. Okay. So I knew Fran already. I played against her daughter a lot. And so I ended up reaching back out to her after, everything happened with the ACL, the pulled scholarship. And I said,
how much time did that take you to process? Like to when you were injured to when you reached out and lost the scholarship to when you reached out?
I mean, going through like something like a season-ending injury is not, I'd say, the easiest thing. It was definitely pretty brutal. When it happened, you don't really know what's going on. Like, when it happened, it was, like, instant pain. I'm on the floor. Like, I was carried off. But, like, even a week later, you're still, like, in shock. Like, what's going on? Like,
absolutely.
How did this happen? Yeah. What did I do? Like, how long am I going to be down? Because it's a whole process. It's not like you tear your ACL and then you go to the doctor the next day and they're like, oh, you tore your ACL. It's like, you tear your ACL, you wait like a week, you go get an MRI because, the first thing that's going to happen is your knee's probably going to swell up, right? So you got to kind of let that go down to get an MRI done. And then, once you get that done, you got to wait for the doctor to read it. And then you kind of have to sit back and go, okay, I'm just hanging out. Like, can't play volleyball. I don't know what I'm going to do now. And so that took, the MRI takes a couple of days. And then the doctor says, hey, can't play anymore. You have to, have surgery. And then you go through like a prehab, which is like pre-rehab before surgery, right? So you do that for however many weeks that was, probably like 3-ish weeks. And then you go under the knife, you get it done. And then it's basically, when you get out of surgery from the start, it's kind of like, got to get moving. Right. Almost. Like, you wait a couple days, obviously. But then barely. It's basically
I've watched a lot of friends come through that. Knock on wood, I haven't had that one. But
yeah, definitely a process. But, I had surgery in October. And I think I was back for, it was about 6 months. It was about 6 months. So I ended up wearing a brace after I got surgery. And I think I finished the end of the track season, potentially, something like that. But yeah, I ended up contacting LSU. Okay. And they were like, look, we don't have money. We can promise you 1 year scholarship, but you're going to have to be a walk-on. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I want to be here. I want to play for the SEC. I love LSU. Let's do it. So I decided to walk on. And since I was coming off my injury, they were like, you need a red shirt, basically. Okay. So I was like, okay. Not the worst thing, right? Looking back on it, when I was a 17-year-old, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, I want to play immediately when I get done with this rehab, Okay,
so right there, that's a what I meant to say moment right there. And that's exactly the stuff I'm getting after. Because it's torture. And I lost my senior season, and I still think about it. I tore a ligament in my thumb in a third tournament. Crazy. Yeah. But it's those things. And you only have your perspective up to that moment. Oh yeah. So when you're going through it and you have a 17-year-old perspective, it's like the most crushing thing to your soul.
It's the end of the world.
Right? It is the end of the world. Because you haven't seen the rest of the world yet. So keep going. But that was it.
Yeah, so basically had the surgery, ended up walking on, red-shirted. And that year actually was probably like the biggest growth for me, right? When I got there and had the meeting with Fran, about walking on and redshirting, she was like, look, you're a stick. Like, you are a noodle. Like, you cannot play at this level with, like, your build right now. Like, you will get broken, basically. Yeah. Like, you are not strong enough. You're not physical enough. And so, hearing that, I'm the type of person, I'm super competitive. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. Like, I'll use this year to build. And like every time I was on the B side, right? You have your A side, your B side, right? Your A side's starting, your B side's your practice players. Every time I was on that B side, I was trying to crush the A side, right? Yeah. I was trying to make them better. I was hitting extra workouts in the weight room because the team would travel and I didn't get to travel. So I'd go and work out, right? Yeah. So it's basically just a big year of growth, right? Being a freshman. It was nice being home too because I still had that support system, right?
Huge.
Going through an injury like that, it's nice to be around people you're comfortable with.
That was going to be my other question for you was like, how did your parents support you through that time?
Yeah, I think, obviously they were crushed, It's kind of crazy, like, looking back, like, Tennessee called them about pulling the scholarship, which is kind of, like, really brutal for a parent to have to, like, go in. I can, like...
I just got the chills.
I can replay it. I
can feel that. Yeah,
I can replay that moment of, like, them coming into my room and telling me this, right? I'm just, like, laying down, and they come in, and they're both, like, upset.
They're devastated. They're devastated.
Like,
yeah.
Almost in, like, as soon as I start crying, like, they're probably in tears with me. I looking back. Like, it was very, it's just as big of an accomplishment for your kid to go and play college volleyball as it is for the parent, The parent puts in so much time and effort and money into, like, what we're trying to do and accomplish, and to see it just ripped right from your child is I'm not a parent yet, but I can't imagine what that feel like.
Well, it's really cool to hear you have that perspective and see have that appreciation for your parents. Like, it sounds like they did. Obviously they did a really good job with raising you.
They did, yes.
But that's a really cool perspective because I think it can kind of work both ways these days. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that appreciation for what goes in. Yeah. And then there's also a lot of parents that maybe there's an overreach. Yeah. And don't understand that it really is their kid's journey.
Yeah.
And there is a supportive role to be played, but, you know, the buck stops with the athlete.
Agreed.
You know? Because
Yes.
you know just you're describing the journey right now. And if you don't love it and you don't want it, there's no amount that the parent can want it that's going to create where the path that you're on.
Yes, I agree.
So I kind of have but I see both sides of the coin on that now, having, you know, been on both sides of the coin. So
yeah, kind of going off that, like I see it a lot with my business, right? I'm helping those parents through this recruiting process and the athlete through their process. And I actually just did a seminar on with some parents from a club back home. So I'm pairing with the club and basically said, look, this is your athlete's decision, not yours. And I was like, not to be blunt, but like, yes, it's your decision ultimately, but because you have to pay. But
right.
You know, if your athlete wants to go and play, then it's got to be up to them. It can't be the parent's decision. It's so hard when, you know, you have a parent, like I've worked with a couple, a parent really wants it, and I can just feel the athlete doesn't really want it, you know? It's got to be a connection in the middle almost. Yeah. So.
Well, you've been down that student athlete journey. And so for you to be playing that role in your business is huge because you can continue to tell that story about the commitment that it takes and the time and the tiredness and the, you know, all the way up to like, you know, getting to these levels of burnout and anxiety that we're seeing in players and how you can keep loving the game. Like, what do we do to keep loving the game?
Yeah.
You know,
for sure. It's awesome being in the position I'm in, helping athletes like get to the next level. It really is it's a cool experience to like have lived it and now to kind of pull them in and like guide them through the process. It's really fun for me. I take pride in it.
Well,
so
I always love hearing athlete stories. So to get back to that, you're on the B side at LSU, your freshman year, you're redshirting. How did the rest of that journey kind of take me through it a little bit?
Yeah, so ended up getting through that 1 year, and I redshirted the whole year. We actually, this is kind of where beach comes in. After the indoor season, Fran took us out to the sand for 3 weeks in the spring, right? This is kind of where the jump start, right? To wanting to play beach, wanting to get into the sport, right? Went out there for 3 weeks and just trained, right? The team, now the beach team was, you know, a separate team. We had indoor and beach. It was already separated.
Okay.
We were still pulling a couple indoor girls in, but it was very separated, right? So the beach team was over here, right, to the left at practice, and the indoor girls were to the right. And I was like, gosh, I want to be over there in the left side. Like, I was like,
you could
loving
feel
it. Yeah, I just wanted to play. Like, I wanted to be competitive and just kind of like, just start immediately playing.
Yeah.
Right. But we kept our distance over here to the right. But that's kind of when it kind of kickstart. I was like, yes, I really like this sport. Like, it's different, it's interesting, but it's similar, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So kind of talked to Russell a little bit then and was like, I really want to play this sport. Like, I would love to be a crossover at some point if Fran would let me.
Yeah.
Right. Not that first year just because, you know, I redshirted, so it wasn't even I didn't have an opportunity. But, you know, I had already been talking with him that first year, like
Russell Brock.
Yeah, Russell Brock, head coach
LSU.
Yep.
Quite a pedigree.
Great guy. But yeah, so I'd already kind of chatted with him a little bit, but you know, I went to LSU for indoor, so I was kind of like, okay, I got to keep my eyes on the prize, but you know, I kind of want to do this too.
I'm over here.
So, so after getting through, you know, that spring, going into the next fall, right, I was good to go, right? I'd put on muscle, my build was better, I was more physical, I was feeling really good. And then kind of as the fall progressed, you know, I finally got my opportunity to go out there and play. So started playing and starting for the team, right?
At what position?
I was an outside.
Okay.
Yes. I played a little bit of both, outside, right side, but I'd say my main position was outside.
Okay.
So started playing and doing well. Like we were all doing really well. Our team was doing well, and we had really good seniors that year. So we were flowing. And then I just remember we were at Texas A&M. Me and my setter went up for a ball. Both went up for a ball at the net. and she kind of hit me from the side, right? She hit me from the side, and this is the same knee that I kind of hurt a little bit in basketball, right? So I had rehabbed it up, but it was still kind of like, when she hit me, I could feel something was weird.
Yeah, like that soft tissue.
Something was
feeling.
weird. Yeah, I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I was like, hey, Fran, like, I can't go. So I sat out, waited a week, got rehab, got treatment with my trainer, like, just took it easy, right? Because I was carrying a big load at this point. Like, I was one of the, outside hitters. Like,
That's huge.
Anytime you play outside right side, you're usually getting not trash, that sounds bad, but trash sets, out of system, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what I call out of system sets. That
you
sounds
gotta make
bad,
a move.
but basically,
yeah, right.
So, I was getting a lot of sets at this point, right? Yeah. So I took a week off, got my knee feeling okay, like better, but it still was kind of like, And so finally got to practice, and then we had a game the next day. Well, I hadn't practiced for a week, so after the actual practice, I said, hey, Lindsay, who's Fran's daughter at the time, she ended up coming to LSU with me, which is awesome, one of my good friends. I was like, hey, Lindsay, can I get some extra sets, like, after practice? She's like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm doing these extra sets or whatever. I go up to hit a ball, come down immediate knee just gives out, and it's immediate pain. I'm on the ground. It's very similar to the first pain I felt that one time in high school when I tore my left ACL. So it was, I'm freaking out, and just looking back at the environment, we had recruits there. So all these recruits were like in the background, and they're all just like, oh my God, what's going on? Because I'm like screaming on the ground.
Yeah.
It's interesting because everyone has like different way of like responding to injury, right?
Absolutely.
I swear, anyone that's ever told me they torn their ACL, they're like, yeah, I tore it, but then I got up and I was kind of like, okay, but like, didn't know. I'm literally on the ground, like, screaming and like in pain, just like, not okay.
But you had the past experience to know what was going on.
Yeah, like, and
that's traumatic.
Yeah, I kept saying, I think I kept saying, like, oh my God, I did it again. I did it again. And like Fran and Jill, who is now one of the LSU coaches, she went back.
Okay.
Jill Wilson. I just remember them being by me and saying like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's not the same. It's not the same. Like, just kind of like just repeating that over and over again. And I kind of knew, like, I kind of felt it in my, kind of felt it. Yeah. So ended up kind of going through the same exact process, right? You wait a couple days, can't play, and you're kind of sitting there like, okay, what's wrong with me? Kind of the unknown is very like, you don't want to be there. And so you wait a couple days, go get an MRI, same exact process, basically the same exact injury, right? Torn ACL, had some meniscus stuff as well. Like in both, you usually if you tear your ACL, you kind of have some type of meniscus stuff going on as well. So that also happened, and I was like, when I found out the news, it's very like knife to the heart. But I think it was at the same time I was like, screw this. Like I've done this once, I can do it again, and I'm gonna get to where I want to go. Like it's not. Yes, it's a setback, but I can get through this. And I was like dead set on like, okay, I know what my rehab is. I know what this looks like, you know?
Like, here we go.
Yeah, it wasn't as intimidating, I'd say, the second time around. I'd say it was more like, okay, I'm going to attack this. Like, I know what this looks like. I know I can get back in X amount of time. Yes, the process will be a little bit different, but overall, it's the same. Right?
So you have a red shirt season, then your sophomore year, you have an ACL season.
Yes.
And go through that same process
craziness.
again.
It's craziness, yes. Basically the exact same process, but this second time around, I actually developed an infection post-surgery. Gosh. Which is kind of it was very brutal. Like, this story is insane. I'm just telling you. It's just insane.
I had a sense for it. I didn't know any of this. But
So, basically, a week post-surgery, it was a week post-surgery was Thanksgiving. Okay. And so I got surgery because I was in Thanksgiving break, and I was like, this is perfect time. I won't miss school. Like, can get acclimated to everything. Well, Thanksgiving, I am I'm not feeling well. You know, I'm running a fever. I'm like in extreme pain and I'm on the pain meds, you know? And when that happens, there's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, if you're having pain, like, and you're on your pain meds, okay. But like, it's one thing if it's like escalating very quickly, right? So I'm talking to my parents. I'm like, hey, like something's not right. Like I'm in a lot of pain and, you know, I'm on a lot of pain medicine and it's not working. So something's wrong. And then knee was swelling and kind of reddish and kind of like just weird, right? So after Thanksgiving, ended up going in on a Sunday to see the doctor, Dr. Winder. He did all of my surgeries, both ACLs and shoulder, but he's like a saint, right? He's literally repaired me.
Yes.
So he's like an angel.
Yeah.
But anyways, so ended up seeing him on a Sunday and my knee was so swollen and just, he ended up draining some fluid. And at this point, I'm not in my right mind. Like, I'm like so...
You're probably getting toxic.
Yeah, so far, like, there was a point, one of my teammates was there, and I was literally, like, she said that I was, like, screaming, like, you're pulling the medicine out of my knee, like, they're just, like, saying just, like, out of my mind, like, stuff, you know? Like, when you're going through it, you don't know what's happening, but, like, when you look back, you're like, holy moly, I went through that.
Yeah.
So... I ended up doing that. He's like, if you wake up tomorrow and you still feel bad, you got to come to the clinic, basically, like where I had my surgery. So I was like, okay, go home next morning, not feeling good. Ended up going in. So they checked me into the hospital, right? Ended up going in, doing a clean out. While I was in the hospital, I was put on a morphine drip, which was insane.
The clean out's another surgery.
Yes. So
they put you out.
They put me out, yes.
Okay.
So if you actually look at my scars, which I can't show you right now because I have my leggings on, obviously, but you can tell, like, my left knee scar looks normal, and then my right knee, it's like this is like a little skinny worm, and then, like, this thing's like a thick caterpillar, right? If you can visualize that, right?
Yeah.
So ended up going in, do a clean out. They put me on this morphine drip, right? I'm still not in my right mind, clearly. You know, I'm like over there. Anyways, you know, we keep going. They can't figure out what type of infection it is. They thought it was staph potentially, but then it wasn't, and they never really clarified what it was. But they ended up doing another clean out. Okay, so I had 2 cleanouts in the hospital. So that means they went in twice. They put me under twice. They opened the scar. So at this point, they've already opened the scar. So they opened it for the first time when they did the surgery. Right. They opened it up the second time for the first cleanout, and then they opened it up for a third time for the second cleanout. Oh my gosh. The scar has taken a beating, right? And then
your body has taken a beating.
Fair. That's fair. And so once they did that clean out, they put me in a mobilizer. So basically, one of the most important things post ACL, right, is to move. Right.
Yeah.
Well, they put me in this brace that I couldn't move, right? It was very straight, which was just necessary for what I had just went through. And then, you know, once I was feeling better, they ended up giving me a PICC line. Do you know what that is? Yeah.
To get the antibiotics through
basically. You. So they went into this right arm and the biggest needle I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh yeah. I was squirming. I was like, I don't want this right now. But, you know, it was obviously needed. So they basically put this huge needle in and they run a, you know, kind of like a tube all the way to your heart. It just goes through one of your veins or arteries. I can't remember which one, but basically just kind of puts it closer to where, you know, all your blood's going through your heart.
Your
exactly.
Body. Yeah.
Exactly. And so got that. My mom and dad administered these antibiotics for 6 weeks post hospital, right? I got let go from the hospital. And let me tell you, when you go through surgery, you lose a lot of quad muscle, right? Because that's the point of the prehab, right? To get the muscles around the joint stronger. Well, when I walked out of that hospital, my knee was bigger than my leg. Yeah. It was insane, like just as big as my calf. It was honestly very like, holy moly, I just went through that, you know?
Yeah. Kind
of sit back and after
and you've done all that work to get strong.
Oh my gosh.
And now it's gone.
It's gone. And, you know, I get home and it's a process. I mean, the rehab process, completely different than what I was planning for, right?
Yes.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
set to go. I'm ready to attack this rehab. Completely different, right? I'm putting the mobilizer, so I build up a lot of scar tissue.
Yep.
Woo! The amount of scar tissue that was built up, like, insane.
And you have the other leg to compare it to. So
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was, the rehab was not the funnest for the first like, I'd say 3 months.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal because, you know, as you start working the joint, right? You're trying to get all the way to flexion. You know, because your knee can only flex and extend, right? So I was only getting about 70 for range of motion. So if this is 180 and then you go here, that's 90.
Right.
I was getting to 70. So I was not.
And you're 19?
Probably, around there.
Yeah.
19, something like that,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going through, this is big, right? So I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. I'm going to rehab every day, and my trainer is just sitting trying to push my leg, and it won't go anywhere. And I'm just, everyone else in the training room is looking at me, and I'm just
And
like,
the tears are just rolling.
I'm not like trying to cry. It's
No.
so much pain.
Yeah.
Just crying.
Yeah.
It's insane. But, you know, worked through it by, so that was like December. I got out of the hospital sometime in December, and then around February, March, ended up going in again to the knee, went back into surgery, cleaned it out for the scar tissue. He manually went in and went, so basically took the scar tissue out and then took my knee and went boom, and put it all the way flexed.
Yep.
You know, so I could develop
Yeah.
that range of motion, because that's the most important thing, right?
Pretty
You
much.
can't do anything if you don't have
No.
range of motion. So
That's the surgery I have to basically have on my ankle, and I'm
Yikes.
47. But
That's-
that range of motion thing, I don't have any dorsiflexion. So on a 19-year-old, you're nice and young and will heal well.
yeah.
But it really does take that surgical intervention when the scar tissue's built up that badly.
It's
And-
unfortunate events, honestly.
And you have been through 2 knee surgery. Okay.
So yeah, basically got that. Then it was kind of, okay, now I can attack the rehab.
Okay.
Right. Once I got the
Yeah.
scar tissue out, it was okay. Okay, I can attack the rehab. I was
Yeah.
very set back, clearly. Ended up getting released to play like July of
Going into your junior
2016. Yes. Going into my red shirt junior year.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. It gets kind of
This is how-
confusing a little bit.
year? She spent 7 years at LSU.
There it is, right? So I'd say I was physically able to play. Was I physically ready to play at a high level, like D1, like what I was doing? Give or take. I'd say I
Yeah.
probably wasn't necessarily like ready to play at that high level, but my team needed me and my
Yeah.
coaches needed me, and like we needed me to be on the court.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was always the all-star. I would never say that.
Yeah.
I would say I was more of I'm going to be the leader for this team. I'm going to speak up when it's necessary. I'm going to rally the troops. I'm going to get everyone on the same page. Like that's always what I felt like I was good at.
Yeah.
Clearly I was good at volleyball, but
Right.
like I feel like, you know, doing my master's in leadership and human resources, right? You know, there's a bunch of ways you can lead people, and it's not always the same.
Yeah.
There's
absolutely.
it's all theory based, right? There's
Right.
no way to be the best leader.
Yeah.
And not everyone can be a leader, but I do think you can learn to be a leader. I think you can be born to be a leader, and I think you can learn to be a leader.
I love
do,
that.
I
That's
do
a
think
really great takeaway for
yes,
anyone out there, but junior athletes, people that are
100%.
contributing in their teams today or their businesses or their families, like you can change it. So,
I think so. I mean, not everyone can do it in a way that people can respond, but I think everyone can learn to do it.
Yeah.
It just takes time. But
and a certain sense of self-awareness, right?
Yeah,
Like
emotional
building
intelligence.
on that. Yeah.
it's definitely a process, you know, and I think that's kind of,
But you come by that naturally.
yeah, I feel like it's always been a little natural.
Yeah.
And so like that year specifically, like it wasn't necessarily that like, I didn't feel like, oh, they needed me to play. They needed me to lead.
Yeah.
Like I did stuff out on the court. Obviously, like I had a good season, but it was way more important for me to be leading in my eyes than to be playing, like actually like getting set or like, you know, just being on the court was where I was needed.
And your mind, you're using your mind there even more than your athletic talent.
And, you know, I had a drive at that point. You know, I'd been out for 9 months. I was ready to go, you know, even if I wasn't physically like all the way there, I was ready. So, you know, finished that season out. And then, you know, by that time, it wasn't really in the cards for me to be a crossover. I wanted to do it that second year, but then I had gotten hurt. So it wasn't really there. So I was like, okay, you know, my team needs me indoor. Fran also suggested like, look, we really need you to get like, we need you to be here and focused on this because, you know, we can do good things. We need you here basically. So I was like, okay, like I'll end up playing beach like my last spring. Like that'll be good. So went through my next 2 years of indoor and like went pretty smooth, like didn't have any like major injuries, which is like great for me, right? Going through something so huge and traumatic. So had some good seasons. My redshirt junior season, redshirt senior season.
Okay.
We made it to the tournament.
Oh, fun.
Yes. So it was a good year. We actually played in Los Angeles at USC.
Nice.
Yeah, we ended up playing the University of San Diego in the first round, and we ended up losing. It was it was pretty
good game.
Yeah, I think it was a good game. I'm trying to look back on it now. Yeah. You know, it's been a while, but yeah, I'd say that was one of my favorite seasons at LSU. You know, making it to the tournament and like, you know, getting to do that and like travel and it was just awesome. And then finished out my senior season with a great group of girls. Olivia Byer, as you know, at TCU with your daughter. Yes. And then Katie Campen, who's also from Louisiana, one of my great friends, and Lindsay Flory, coach's daughter. So, you know, finished out with a good group of girls. And then we crossed over to the sand, me, Liv, and Katie. Lindsay was like, I'm done. She's playing in Germany now, professional indoor. Nice. She's a setter, so she's doing big things. So she was like, I'm not playing sand. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, some people are so drawn to it, and some people are like, I don't want to touch that stuff.
I don't want to even touch my toes in the sand.
Yeah, it's so true.
So crossover, immediately get out there, start loving it. I know I have a lot to learn, but I'm like, this is fun, right? Yeah. You know, it's so fun to learn new things. And I've come to realize that like now, like where I'm at right now, because, you know, I'm working with a bunch of different people out here. I'm working with Scott Davenport now. And, you know, it's interesting to get to learn new things that I haven't before. It's just so fun.
Cool when I see people your age that know that already. Because I always say that curiosity is like the key to longevity. Like it keeps you young, you keep learning, you keep growing, nothing gets boring. There's always a little bit of being on the edge, you know, and that feeling like it gets you up in the morning, right?
Yeah,
but
100%.
I don't feel like I knew that at your age. So that's just a really cool thing.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thing to see.
Kind of goes like with moving out here in general, like learning something new. Like I've been learning new things since I moved here. So
what's that experience been like, going from college to the professional endeavor?
Definitely different, I'd say. I definitely had a different vision of what I wanted my professional route to be. You know, after my last year at LSU, so 2019 spring, after I finished beach, you know, I knew I wasn't done with the sport. I always thought I wanted to go play professional indoor. Like I always thought that that's what I wanted to do. But as soon as I walked out into that sand and at LSU, like I just felt like this is kind of where I want to be. Yeah. And so when I finished that season, I ended up filing for a medical red shirt, right? Okay. I got it. So that was that, you know, the next year was when COVID hit.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Okay. So
that 2020 season that had about we got a couple weeks into that.
Yeah. And so
it was done.
Going into that fall of 2019, you know, I'm kind of like already kind of like thinking like, okay, I want to play this sport professionally. Like, I think I really want to do this. Like, this is like a dream. Like, how fun is this culture and this environment and the community and just everything about it? Like, I want to be here. I want to be doing this for a long time. Like,
So cool.
so like going into that fall, I was like, you know, like obviously I'm a big team person.
Yeah.
Like, I love my teams. And so I'm obviously always like mindset is LSU, but like in that fall period, I was already starting to think like, what could this look like as a professional? Like, what can I do in this sport professionally? Like, kind of thinking about it, right? And then COVID kind of hit, right? Ranked number 1 in the country. We beat UCLA for the first time in program history. Sorry, Savvy.
Yeah.
One of my good friends now. But, I, at that moment when, season gets canceled, there's another big punch of adversity, right?
Yep.
I've gone through the ringer already with injuries, but that was like a different type of heartache. That was kind of
I
like,
just got the chills again.
that was kind of like just pure sadness.
Yeah.
Just, to feel like you've worked so hard for something, right? With your team and all these girls, and we've given so much time and dedication to what we want to do and accomplish, and to like be there, like to be ranked number 1 and to have already beaten UCLA twice in the season. It was just super encouraging. And then to have COVID hit, something so crazy, like something that you never think is going to happen, right?
Nobody could have ever.
Yeah,
You couldn't
like
have written a sci-fi novel.
Nobody.
What went in on what's gone on here.
No,
It's
yeah,
insane.
It's so unpredictable. Life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right. In general.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're us seniors, right? We had a big group, and a big group of us. We cried about that for a while, and then, God has a plan, and He was like, all right, y'all are coming back.
Yes,
you
then
know,
you get
so
your COVID
there
red
it
shirt.
is.
Yeah, okay.
So going into, once COVID hit, still thinking about professional stuff, right? I'm still like, okay, I want to play professionally. How am I going to do this? If I don't have this next LSU season, what does that look like? If I do have this LSU season, what does this look like? Because we didn't know if we get our COVID year back.
Yeah.
Right. So in that time, we had exit physicals, right? Because they didn't know if we were coming back or not.
Okay.
Ended up getting an MRI on my shoulder.
Okay.
This is kind of where that surgery comes in. I had a partial tear in my rotator cuff, and it had been nagging me for a while. And so I was like, what's a better time than to have a surgery when we're going through a pandemic and nobody's playing volleyball?
Yeah.
What's a better time?
You're like,
What's a better time?
yeah.
Literally.
Can't compete anyway.
There was literally
Yeah.
not a better time. So made the decision to have the surgery. It was a little bit scary, though, I will say, because shoulder's a lot different than a knee. You got to be able to move in all directions with your shoulder versus your knee is just flexion extension, right? So it was definitely a different process. I also had some PTSD from post surgery infection, right? I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't go through this again. This is not going to be able, I don't want to go through that. I don't wish what happened on my worst enemy. Like, like what I went through. No one deserves to go through that. No one deserves to go through that. And so I had some of those feelings and just kind of like just anxiety about it, just overall, like, is this the right time? Should I be doing this? Like, kind of all over the place. But I know, like, post-professional, I knew I wanted to coach, and I have to have a shoulder to do that, right? I got to be able to hit balls, run drills,
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to do it. Regardless of if I'm playing professionally or not, I have to have the surgery.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Had surgery. It was fine. It was different. It was weird, kind of just slower, and I don't know, just different. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I'd say. So.
And how long was that from surgery to being able to get
season, kind of?
Yeah.
So like the first couple of months, I had surgery in May, and then when the fall hit, I was able to like pass and set, and I basically played all fall left-handed, which was so fun and
That's
like legit
awesome.
because now I can like actually
Channeling your inner Carrie Walsh.
yeah, I could actually like if I want to use it now, I can do it in a controlled way to where it scores and
Huge
stuff. So
asset.
yeah, I mean, I think like it's interesting, like the amount of things that I had to do with my left hand while I was in my sling, right? Like eat and like drink and like all these different things. And so now it's like fun because I feel like I've almost trained my brain to like be more comfortable overall, right? Like just like using my left hand.
Yep.
So ended up getting through the fall. I wouldn't say I was like, that surgery, you're usually not like one hundo until like at least a year.
Okay.
So I definitely started way earlier than that. Was able to play through my season clearly, but I wasn't like as powerful or strong as I wanted to be. Kind of rushed, not really rushed, but kind of rushed back, so I could play in the season. And we didn't get the job done, winning a national championship. But I will say it was a fun year, and my partner Ashlyn Rasnick Pope, I feel like we really kind of finally figured it out as a partner. Like we partnered for 3 years, and so it was really awesome, and now we're really great friends and I love her to death. So
love it.
It's awesome. But yeah, so like going into that last spring, I was kind of like, okay, like I know I want to play professionally. Like what's this going to look like? Come on. So I kind of had to like make a plan. And originally I'll be honest, right? What I'm meant to say, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to play with Kristen Nuss.
Okay.
Post-college, right? We're both Louisiana girls.
For sure.
I mean, we were all close, like me, Kristen, Taryn, and Ashlyn, like
yeah, you guys
pod,
seem to have
like,
such a cool
yeah.
Your team, the way that you guys felt bonded when I met so many of you in Louisiana was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, we definitely have a good team aspect for sure. And so, like I said, I thought I wanted to play in Louisiana. I thought I wanted to stay back with Kristen. And then obviously Taryn and Kristen had an amazing season at LSU. And I mean, come on, like went 30-0, 31-0, whatever that was. But like an amazing season. And, sometimes what we plan for is not what's going to happen. And that's something that everyone needs to hear, right?
Yeah.
You can make a plan, but it's not always going to be the plan.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, after hearing what I've just talked about, clearly a plan is never a plan, right? Yeah. The only person that knows that plan is God, right? Yeah. So I'm not making a plan. As much as I want to make the plan, I very much try to be super, like, go with the flow now, kind of, yes, I plan, obviously, day to day and stuff like that, but it's hard to plan long term when you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, there's just so many things that are outside of your control.
So many things, right?
And realizing that, but then when you have the skill set underneath that to adjust and and like your confidence to do that with everything that you've been through, and the story it's really impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
At any point, and I mean, saying that to any athlete out there right now that's like struggling through something, health issues, injuries, the pressure of getting to that next level, it can get you down.
Oh, 100%.
The skills that lay underneath it are huge. And
definitely.
I just think having athletes like you that are rising up like this through these levels to tell your stories, I think is really, really huge for the younger generation.
I believe so too. I mean, today's world is kind of crazy with technology and everything, and I don't know, it's nice to just like hear pure like stories.
I think we learn so much from human connection and the stories that people are willing to tell, and so
100%. That
is one of my passions, and that's what I've tried to do with my blog, and now turning it into this. And
so exciting.
And I mean, I just love giving people those moments to tell their stories, because I always learn something, and I feel like that's where we stop the repeating of patterns of things that harm us, or we get into these, you hear so many stories about, like, you have to be willing to look at something critically to change it, right? Yeah. And then the goodness comes from that. That's how the goodness comes out of the struggle, in my opinion.
100%. Just going back on, like, plan-wise, I, like I said, kind of thought I'd be in Louisiana, right? I'm from there. It's familiar. It's easy. trained with Kristen and Taryn and Kaylee York, as you know. She
Kaylee.
played at the Fives at LSU. We trained a lot after being done at LSU like that summer. And Drew Hamilton, Kristen and Taryn's coach, love him. He's one of the best coaches I've ever worked with. He's very technical, and he's Drew. And anyone that knows him, he'll know what I mean when I say
met him yet, but
when I say he's Drew.
Seems pretty on point.
Yeah, he's a pretty awesome guy. And so, at nationals actually, so I'm living with Laurel Weaver, USC's volunteer coach, and she actually approached me at nationals after we ended up losing to UCLA. And I'm in full tears, right? I'm finally done with LSU, right? It's 7 years of sweat and tears and just, everything. I'm done. Like, I am walking out of the door, right? I'm bawling my eyes out. And she comes up to me. She says, hey, I've been watching you. I've been scouting you all season. And, I really like the way you play. And I think it'd be cool if you'd come out to California. Like, I'm a professional beach volleyball player. I'd love to play with you sometime. And I was like, kind of taken back. I was like, what? Like, what's going on?
That's so awesome.
So I was like, okay, yes, I'll do it. So I was like, okay,
next
cool.
Door,
so
the next door opens.
Yeah. So it's kind of how I got here, basically. Like, I ended up playing. I played in a couple tournaments this summer. I played with Kaylee in New Orleans when we met, and then kind of went through this little foot injury. It was nothing serious. I just had some, some pain going on. So I took a couple weeks off, ended up not playing in a lot of the AVP next.
Okay.
But I played in all the AVP qualifiers. So I played with Kaylee York in Atlanta, played with Laurel, ended up playing with Laurel in Manhattan, which is kind of, we set that up and kind of got the ball rolling, right? I was still kind of set on Louisiana, but I was also like, I really think I should move to California. Yeah. Like, I think it's what I need to do. Like, I think it's the honey hole of beach volleyball. It's where it's all started. So why wouldn't I move here? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, as much as I, wanted to train with Drew and Kristen and Taryn and like be with my family and all of these other things, like, it just made the most sense in my head. Like, just the opportunity and like, I don't know, something in me. And so when I came out here from Manhattan, I actually stayed with Laurel and, kind of got the vibes and just kind of felt it out. And, by the end of the trip, she's like, hey, like, we have this extra room. Like, you can rent it out, like, and move here. And I was like, okay. Like, okay. Yeah. I think I'll do it. Like, it's basically how fast it happened. Like, played in Chicago with Aurora Davis. And then we ended up playing in a tournament right after the next weekend, same with Aurora. And then after that, went home and packed my stuff up and moved cross country. Me and my dad jumped in my car, loaded it up, and we headed to here. So, it was kind of interesting though, like coming out here, obviously it's first time leaving home really. Okay. Right. So going to LSU, right? It's only 45 minutes from my house, like my house that I grew up in, right? So I could literally go home anytime I wanted. But, this was a big change, right? Coming out here, holy moly.
So what do you think biggest challenge so far?
I'd say, I don't know if it's a challenge, but just like kind of like learning to, I guess with this sport, like networking and like just being open to meeting new people and like just experience, like being in the moment and like experiencing like everything. Yeah. It's just like any opportunity that arises, like I want to take. And so like just not holding back on like what I'm allowing myself to do. Like even like training groups, like just being open to whoever asks me, like, yeah, like I want to train with them. Like just go fill it out. Like meet people, like just make a connection. I don't know. Like it's just coming out here, not having a lot of friends either, right? Move to a whole new place, right? Don't have a lot of friends. Like I gotta learn how to make friends, right? It's kind of like going back.
You don't have that built-in team anymore. Yeah, I mean, you've had that for so long.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. I am so team-oriented. You can ask my teammates, like, I love a team. Like, I am, like, all about the team. Like, this is my team. Like, I love it. And now it's like, okay, now I gotta be all about me. And that's people don't like to be there. It's uncomfortable, right? We don't like to, I don't like to talk about myself.
No.
Even doing this podcast, I'm like, ew. Like, I'm talking about myself the whole time, you know? It's uncomfortableness, right? It's like, I don't know. You just got to kind of work through it. And I feel like I've had a lot of self-growth out here.
Yeah.
In California, moving to a new place, like doing it by myself. Like, you just met my boyfriend out in the parking lot, but Dylan, he's been a huge support system, right? He's been with me at LSU the whole time, and now we're doing long distance, and he lives in Austin. He's doing his master's in mechanical engineering, and so that's been new, right? There's so many new things, and so it's just been like, how do I navigate and make all of this work together? And it's just been fun. Like I said, learning something, it's obviously you have your struggles, right? We all have our struggles when we're learning something new, but I think like when you figure it out, it's like, yes, I did it. Like, it's like technique, right? I'm learning new technique with Scott. We talked about it today. It's not about winning drills at this point. It's about mastering the technique, right? When I go to competition, there's no point in going back to old habits. Like, master the technique. Don't worry about what's actually happening. And like, it's really good to hear that, because we all get wrapped up in that, right?
Yeah.
In our day-to-day lives, like, we go back to our old habits. Like, we want to set new habits, but then it's like, oh, I'm gonna do what's easy. I'm gonna do what's easy, right?
Much easier.
New Year's resolution, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna work out every day, and then it's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's just been interesting.
But when you have that
awesome.
passion for, like right now, the passion for the sport,
yes,
it allows you to fall in love with that process, even when that process is changing.
100%. And I think one of the biggest things, like, kind of going back to that question, like, what's got you here today? Like, I think my support system has been basically the foundation of everything, right? Like, parents, teammates, coaches, Dylan, like, just family overall. Like, I've had some people pass away in the past couple of years. Like, my grandpa, huge person that like always like believed in me, and I will say I feel like I was his favorite grandchild. I won't tell the other grandchildren that, but I will say he was at all my sporting events, and my other set of grandparents as well.
What number are you sibling wise? And then
I'm so I have a half sister on my mom's side, so I'm technically like an only child. Like, like, I didn't grow up with her, so like I felt like an only child. So
and then cousins wise, like tons.
No, not tons. I'd say like let's see, my aunt had 3 kids, 2 kids. So like I'm like
just
6.
Wondering how.
I'm like,
so you were.
one
I
of
mean,
6,
if you at all your sporting,
and I was
events.
I was the youngest
Okay.
one,
Oh, you're the
so
youngest.
like that kind of helped me, I think. So they wanted to be involved still, you
Yeah.
know. So I lost him. He was just, once you get old, it's kind of, you get sick, and but he was awesome. He's like an incredible influence in my life, and I actually got this. I don't know. I got this tattoo, this rosary. He always did his rosary, right? So this is like for remember him, so very sentimental.
And that's that generational.
Let's take a look at that tattoo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
show it. Absolutely.
Sorry, where am I?
Am I
Sorry, let's take a look at that tattoo.
Am I in a good position?
I know. I don't know all the cool things that Jason can do yet. So.
Sorry, I'm
awesome.
Let's see it.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Yep. It's a little rosary. So yeah, I just got that for him, just because he used to always be in my games, and now obviously he's not. But my other set of grandparents, they're fantastic as well. So my grandpa that passed away, that's my dad's dad, and then my other set of grandparents, my mom's parents, like they're awesome as well. Like, just like want to watch me and like watch other people. It's kind of insane, like the amount of volleyball they watch. It's unreal. Like, they'll call me and be like, hey, so and so is playing right now. I'm like, okay, I'm busy, I can't watch, but you guys watch. Like, let me know what happens. They're awesome. Obviously I talked about like my boyfriend. He's super supportive, and my parents, and then I do have a half sister. She also actually passed away, which is very, very like,
man, kid, you like,
I've gone through the ringer.
You have been through it.
This is like,
But see this
Crazy, right?
I know, but the strength, and it's like I could see this from the first time I met you, and I didn't know your story, but you have this like optimism and this light about the way you go after things, and it's contagious.
Thank you.
And I can see why any coach would want to have you on their team. I can see why you're going to be a competitor out there, and these are the stories, and I love passing down these stories because even the things that you're talking about in your body, like, I feel these things at 47, and I have these 4 kids that I'm raising, and so much of the way I parent has been drawn from the wells of the sports that I played. Definitely. And I see that in you and the way that you influence others, and I just think it's a story that's so worth telling. And I think there are so many athletes out there walking around with these stories, and business owners and parents. And,
everyone.
Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
And you don't always hear them. And that's what I do love about the podcast world is I feel like we're getting out there and telling the stories of people that they're not going to be on, today, they're not going to be in the headline of the Wall Street Journal or People Magazine or whatever. But man, it's powerful, real stuff. And this is how we make the world better right now.
100%.
Because it is dark out there on so many days. But then when you walk around and you go into Starbucks and you see Jason and I run into you, this is where the good stuff is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I am a firm believer that I think everything happens for a reason. And I think, I believe in, signs as well. And so,
me too.
I think, as much as we want to be upset about certain things, right? Injuries, deaths, just
pandemics,
bad stuff, anything bad in life, right? Yeah. You can be mad about it, or you can figure out a way to use it to your advantage, or, you can still, I don't know, you can just learn from it. Yeah. It's not going to be easy every day. Yeah. By no means is it easy, right? Right. Even for what I've gone through and other people are going through, it's never easy. Yeah. Right? You just have to put your head down and keep grinding. Yep. That's what I mean.
And then use that support system that you've got to
100%
help you recover.
100%.
Because you clearly know how to grind. And if there's any advice, what I meant to say is normalizing the ability to be kind to yourself and recover and treat yourself with that grace that God wants you to do, and it's paramount in reaching the pinnacle. I don't know that we never get there, but that climb, you have to be kind to yourself along the way.
Oh yeah.
So I have so much respect for the way you're going through this journey, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
to have you here. So
I'd say one of the biggest things, biggest pieces of advice, kind of going off of, what would I tell my younger self, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't let anyone decide what you're gonna do in life, or don't let someone determine what you can achieve, right?
More chills, absolutely.
If you want to do it, right? Yeah. If you're happy doing it, do it. If you're not happy doing something, don't do it. I feel like it's straightforward almost. And, for someone like me going through so much adversity, and people have gone through more than what I've gone through that are playing on tour. I'm sure of it. We don't know it, but I'm sure it's, no one can stop you from doing what you love and what you want to do in life. And I think that's key. If you decide not to quit, just then keep going. You can accomplish anything you want, I believe. And I think it's good to set high goals and then work towards them.
Yeah. And you have demonstrated that beautifully with your setbacks and your triumphs and all the ways that you've gone after it. So Gosh, this is a very cool conversation. We uncovered way more than I even knew I would. Yep. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Thanks for telling your story. And the last thing I want to ask is, how can people connect with you with your new business, and where can they find you?
Yeah, so my new business, I actually have a website, www.levelupvolleyball.com. So any junior volleyball players, it's also indoor, so beach and indoor. Cool. If you want to get help for recruiting, I'm basically like the middleman, come to me and I will get you a highlight video, I'll get you those college contacts, an email template, and I'll basically help you through the process. I'm working with about, I'd say close to 9 or 10 athletes right now. All of them from Louisiana, but one, but I definitely want to expand. I started it for my Louisiana kids, but I want to help as many people as possible. I want to help athletes get to college because I think that it's super important for the next generation. I mean,
and you can support them through that.
100%.
And, listen to this story, you guys. She can support you through that process, and it's an up and down process. So
for sure.
Yeah, I can see.
And then also you can follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Toni T. Rodriguez, I believe. And then on Instagram, you can follow me at It's Big Toe. That's my nickname from college, and it's just kind of stuck now. So I think I'm just going to roll with it, right? I think it's on all my balls, my AVP balls, and everyone's like, random person on that court's like, who's Big Toe? And I'm like, it's me. So I think I'm just going to roll with it. I might make some cool hats or something that say Big Toe with a Louisiana, because I want to represent.
Yeah. It's a great shout out to Louisiana.
I'm in California, but I'm always representing Louisiana. Yeah. It's home. It'll always be home and it'll always be there, but it's awesome being here. So you can also follow me. I'm on Twitter a little bit. I'm also on TikTok. I think it's Toe. Toeee, knee, Knee. That sounds really a lot.
We'll find it. Okay.
If you didn't know, my name is a toe and a knee. Toni. Oh, yes. See? Right? Easy. Right? Yeah. Just think of body parts. Right? And then, what else? I can give you my phone number, but it's on my website. So,
all right.
You can find me.
Come see this girl if you have a junior coming up, because she's going places, and this has been the coolest conversation. So thanks for starting me out. This was exactly what I wanted it to be, and your story's amazing, and I know it is not even close to over.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for the What I Meant to Say podcast. For more real conversations like this one, come on over to the Be Better community at www.bebetterwithwendyjones.com, a place for athletes and parents to grow and find meaning behind what we do every day so that we can be strong on our own and better together.